Welcome to the Side Action Podcast, the sports gambling show that covers everything in the world of sports betting from A through Z. We'll cover the four major sports, as well as anything and everything in between worth some action, and will increase the size of your bankroll. And here we go.
All right, welcome to the Side Action, episode 86, episode 17 of season 3. This is Jim Weglars, aka Wegs. You can follow me at Wegs on Instagram and on Twitter.
This is Steve Roberts, aka Action. You can follow me on Twitter at 31sroberts.
Follow the podcast at Side Action Pod on Twitter and also on YouTube. So Action, obviously, holiday festivities. We talked before the pod. It's not like you're going out and you're hosting like 50,000 people at your place, your new house, right? For party?
Yeah, big underground party in the basement tonight. As many people as we can fit in. So come on. How about you?
Well, I kind of told you a lot of weird things have happened this week. It was my birthday on Sunday. That was kind of low key, except for Saturday night. Probably not talking about that on the pod, but had a wild night. It was fun. In the end, nothing. My daughter and I, Sophia, ended up coming back. She was in Miami, and then she came back, cut her trip short, so we just got some lobster tails. We're going to hang out, watch the end of The Boys, which is an Amazon show, which we like, and maybe a movie, and watch a ball drop. So that's about it. Nothing really exciting here in Chicago.
Nice. Yeah, I think we might find a movie to watch tonight as well. There's a few that are on the tip of our tongue. So
nice.
We'll see.
Nice.
Not
Wonder Woman. Don't see that. Did I tell you that?
Yeah, you did.
Oh, okay.
That was
I haven't even done the review yet. I have to do it. One of the worst movies of all time, possibly, right there. And I shouldn't say that. It probably wasn't the worst movie of all time, but because the expectations were so high, at least after the first movie, which was well received, I thought was pretty good. The story was terrible. The empowerment of women has taken a back step by 3 steps, and it was very just DC Comics is light years behind Marvel. It's just terrible. So
yeah.
Anyway, but I'll watch some football, maybe a little bit today, tomorrow, and then obviously the big games on Sunday. So getting back to work on Monday. I've already done some work this week, but like real work next week when it's back at it. The grind starts again. So
yeah, new year, new work here.
That's right, absolutely. Well, let's go into our episode here. It's kind of our last regular season episode. We'll talk about the playoffs next week, and maybe, I don't know, we'll have to figure out if we're going to transition some college basketball, but all of our college basketball fans, we are going to be there for you. I know Action's been updating his index, so I can see that he's been already priming, wants some money. He wants to help you guys win some money too.
That's right. The algorithm's performing quite well so far this year. I think a big part of that is the non-home court advantage, much like we saw in the NFL. Makes things a little bit easier when you can consider every game on a neutral court.
Yeah, exactly. Those college kids. So. Okay, well, let's talk about some COVID updates from this week. It's a very interesting week 17. We've talked about this in past seasons. You have to check motivation. You have to check who's playing. It may not be injury related, but you have to find out who is actually going to be on the field and if they really, frankly, give a shit. So let's start off with the COVID stuff. The Rams have Cooper Kupp. He's out with COVID this week. You've listed, or I guess I've listed Carl Joseph and Denzel Ward and Anthony Sandejo from Cleveland in their defensive secondary, who we'll talk about what happened last week later. But that's another group of losses there for them. Minnesota, I saw Riley Reif, the offensive tackle, is out. You're listed Ryan Fitzpatrick, which means they go to Tua still 100%, and Keenan Allen for the Chargers, which they've played well the last couple of weeks. So there's some big names on this list.
Yeah. And I'm sure this won't be the end of it either this week. I think I've said that for like 3 weeks running, but I feel like it holds more truth this week with just the rise in cases. And now we have these new strains that are popping up all across the U.S. So chances are greater that more NFL players will get it, much like the rest of America.
Exactly. So just a quick recap of our Week 16 numbers. It was pretty even split. Home road 9-7 this week for the home teams. The favorites and the dogs down the middle, 8-8. So it looks like the books have finally figured out this season Action. And then also for the totals, 8, 7, and 1 push. So 8 overs, 7 unders, and 1 push on my numbers that I kept. So you can see now it's taken them 16 weeks, but the books actually are really getting the money on both sides of the action, aren't they?
Yeah, I think that this has been a banner year for sports books. Every single gambling media personality that I follow has indicated that not only Nevada, but other legalized jurisdictions, the books have won a record amount on NFL sides and totals for that matter. So certainly makes you think that they're doing their jobs better, or more, maybe there's more squares that are into the market for whatever reason. We're seeing a nice even divide on both the sides and totals.
Right at this point. I mean, still for the season, if you went underdogs, you would have been in good money. You know, obviously of late, the favorites have come back and now it's starting to even up. But yeah, you're right. Usually squares are going to go favorites in general, and that wasn't good, at least for the first 12 weeks of the season. All right. Well, I just put some positives down from the week, and obviously negative in my personal world. But Alvin Kamara, man, that dude dominated the Vikings. We kind of talked about, you know, whether they could score all those points, and they did. Alvin went off, and he won fantasy titles for people across America, including the guy I was playing. 155 yards, 6 rushing touchdowns. That's a record, right? I mean,
tied for a record.
Tied. Wow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the Saints put up 52 points here. That's the most points they put up all season, winning that game 52-33, and just kind of, I mean, the Vikings were out of it anyway, but that defense just showed that they just couldn't stop anybody.
Yeah, they didn't really need Drew Brees or his arm or his ribs this week because Alvin Kamara just ran all over the Vikings. Yeah. I got to admit, I wasn't even really paying attention. It was on during the Christmas festivities, but none of us were really watching.
Right. I mean, I like that. I like the side for sure. I didn't know they were going to smash like that. But at the same time, I was a little surprised that they gave up 33 points. But at that point, it didn't matter. They were just dominating. So here's a positive. I'm sure you were shocked to see this on the outline action. The Bears offense. The Bears offense have now scored 30 points or more in 4 straight games. I don't know if you knew that. They crushed the Jags, who we know stink, at 41-17. The game was close in the first half, but they were able to get going. And Mitch, I mean, they have taken advantage of some bad defenses, but 3 straight wins for the Bears. They win on Sunday. They're in the playoffs, dude. I mean, I can't believe it, right? Isn't that right? Or they have to have I think they're ahead of the Cardinals, aren't they?
Yeah, and I think they could even get in with a loss.
They can if the Cardinals lose, right? If they both lose, they're in. I mean, I don't think they're going to be anybody to worry about in the playoffs, but that's just insane considering they were, 6-7 or something like that? No, 5-6. Yeah, 5-6, I think. Yeah, 5-6 at one point. So that's just Mitch. They actually decided to run the football, and there you go.
Yeah, David Montgomery has been awesome the last few weeks too. I'm sure that helped the offensive output a little bit. But you mentioned it. I think it really has to do with the defenses that they've played more recently than the Bears actually finding an offense. So. Although the Packers really may not put up much of a fight on that side of the ball this week. We'll see. We'll talk about that later. We'll
see. Good tease. The last one is Josh Allen to Diggs. That connection has been great all year. I know that we've talked about this throughout the year, that I was Mr. Josh Allen MVP. Aaron Rodgers is going to win the MVP. We know that. But I think in any given year, if Rodgers wasn't having the year he was having, I think Allen could maybe overtake Mahomes. The guy has played incredibly. Diggs has played impressively. He's way up there in yardage. He had 9 catches for 145 yards, 3 touchdowns. Allen finished 342 yards and 4 touchdowns with 0 interceptions, which was the thing last year. We remember we bet on them all the time. And if it was basically, is Josh Allen going to lose this game for us or not? Now he doesn't do that, and they've got the weapons. This team's going to be tough in January.
Yeah, the Bills are just smashing opponents now. I think I read this is the first time the Patriots have been swept by a division opponent in like 15 years. So the Bills just put a nice cap to the end of their season, and they really don't need to do much this week against Miami, although I think they're still fighting for that 2 seed between them and Pittsburgh. So
correct.
But I think the Bills are a team that are going to be very formidable going into the playoffs, certainly between them and Kansas City, the 2 favorites in the AFC.
Right. Agreed. Here's some of the negatives. We mentioned it a little bit. The Browns COVID protocol. Now, granted, it's been tough all around, but you can hear already they've got 3 guys in position groups on the one side of the ball, the defensive backs this week. They had all 4 receivers out last week and 2 offensive linemen. They lost to the Jets, your Jets, which we couldn't go on again. We backed off. They not just cover and win the game 23-16. And now, so shockingly, 2 weeks ago, you never would have told me this, the Browns could miss the playoffs. If they don't beat the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday, they will miss the playoffs.
Yeah, well,
I know that they need Indy to lose
right,
and all that, but bottom line is, if all those three teams win, they're in, right?
Correct.
But if they lose and the other two teams, Ravens and Indy, win, they're out. It's that simple.
Yeah. And, the Steelers are not a pushover even without starters. I think Ben is going to be out this week, but the Browns have had a history losing big games to the Steelers, so definitely not an easy one for them, and it'll be made even more difficult without essentially all of their defensive backfield starters.
I know, that is crazy to me.
Last week it was no receivers. This week it's no DBs. And let's hope for the Browns' sake and the Browns fans and my kin that they win and get into the playoffs.
Exactly. Mikey somewhere he might be lacing them up. Maybe he goes out there, plays a little DB.
I'd love to see that.
I know you would. The Chiefs, this team, as good as they've been, they are not covering anymore. 8 straight non-covers for the Chiefs. They maybe should have lost this game to the Falcons. I mean, it was close. They obviously had a missed field goal by the Falcons to tie it late. They end up winning the game 19-16. Are you worried about the Chiefs in the playoffs?
Yeah, a little bit. I have a Super Bowl futures ticket on them, and I think that they've been playing with fire lately. It's not just they're getting slow starts in a lot of these games, and the offense just doesn't quite look like its normal self. I've heard some chatter in the media this week about perhaps Bieniemy and Andy Reid holding back a little bit for the playoffs, which I thought was a very interesting point. Specifically, the pass to Patrick Mahomes on 4th and 1 seemed like a very odd position to be calling that play, and I certainly don't think they're going to be going deep into the playbook when the playoffs will roll around like that.
Right, agreed. I mean, maybe once they saw the Steelers start losing, they were like, we got this. But still, it's hard to go in without momentum. They haven't played great, and they're basically going to sit everybody this week. So that's usually, they're going to be sitting for a couple weeks, but it's tough. We'll see what happens. And then, sorry, buddy, your Colts, second half defense. I didn't see the game. We were communicating a little bit about it in the first half. Then I tried to do my skating, whatever, birthday thing. They're up 24-7 at halftime. We know Big Ben hasn't done anything for weeks. Suddenly pulls 3 touchdown passes out of his butt. They win 28-24. I don't know. And the Colts have to beat the Jags to get in, and then they need somebody to lose. What happened in that second half?
Well, the Colts were just sitting on all the short routes that the Steelers have been throwing around the last 6 to 8 weeks. And I found out later after the game this week that Big Ben basically said F you to the offensive coordinator and said he's going to call his own plays in the second half. And so
good.
They completely flipped the game script on Indianapolis, and Ben started throwing it down the field. And they got a few completions and several DPIs, I might add, that aided their drives. But ultimately, I think it was the change to Ben calling the plays that made the difference in that one.
Well, they've been talking about it on the broadcast. I've seen it. This short passing game's garbage to me. They've got the players to get deep, too. It's not like they don't have any speed. They've got 3 or 4 guys that can get deep. Even, Chase Claypool's a big guy. He's a fast guy. They can go deep. It's just, can they protect Ben? I think they were worried about it. Maybe it's hard to predict. I guess we'll talk about that next week with the playoffs, what to predict with this offense. So, but anyway, the Colts, it really hurt their chances. They win that game, they're in the playoffs, basically. So that's where it really hurt them.
No doubt.
I listed a bunch of injuries here that are relevant. Akeem Hicks was on the injury report yesterday. I just kept it on there. He's big to the Bears, run defense against Green Bay, questionable. Cleveland, in addition to what I just mentioned, they've got Javon Patterson, their center. He's out this week with an illness. Your guy from Indy, Will Holden, the guard, is out. Anthony Costanzo is also out, which is big. Although they get maybe a little bit of a gift because James Robinson is out for the Jags. And the running back who's had a great year as a rookie. Jared Goff, we didn't even talk about that. That was whatever. He hurt his thumb, but inexplicable, that one throw. Jared Goff is out because he had thumb surgery after the game against Seattle. And they also have Darrell Henderson out, which got hurt their offensive output. And then Minnesota, it looks like Dalvin Cook has a personal issue who's out. And then the last one I listed was Alex Smith, calf, which to me it's really critical. I mean, they got rid of our guy, Mr. Make It Rain out there, but that means they're going to start some guy I've never heard of if Alex Smith doesn't start.
Yeah, Taylor Heineke, right? Wasn't it a former Chicago Bear?
Was he?
I think he was on the Bears for.
Maybe he had a cup of coffee. I don't recognize the name, but
maybe I'm thinking of a different age quarterback. But another name on here you didn't list, Kyler Murray, also questionable in that game against the Rams. And it could be a battle of two backup quarterbacks for the playoff position there between the Rams and Cardinals.
Fascinating. And then we know that a lot of Pittsburgh starters are going to sit, right? At least the offensive guys. Do we have the full list? I know Ben's not going to play. Is it going to be any of the receivers?
Yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I saw Big Ben is out, and Mason Rudolph is going to be starting for his revenge game against the Browns.
Right,
but I'm not sure about any other offensive starters.
Right, and then Patrick Mahomes is out for the Chiefs, and Edwards-Helaire will probably sit too. He's doubtful. So some of these premium teams, you just got to check before game day to see what's going to happen. Nuts. Crazy times. Let's go into the previews here. All the games this week are on Sunday, which is great, so we don't have to worry about an early slate. It kind of is a bummer. We had a rough week last week, America. I know everybody knows, follows us so closely. Because I liked some of those early games, that Tampa game and, of course, the Saints game. And when you go over, you look at all that stuff. But this week, all the games are on Sunday. No Monday Night Football. It'll all be settled on the field. They've put a lot of the playoff games kind of at the same time slot, so then they can't play around. So all these games are relevant.
Yeah, for the most part, I think there's only maybe 3 or 4 games that don't really have any playoff implications. So certainly a lot on the line. Although I think we probably have said this 2 years running now, Week 17 is definitely one of the harder weeks to handicap just because there's so much news that goes into it. And you really have to look at every team's motivation from the top side and the bottom side as to what they're looking to do and what the front office may have motivation for too in some cases.
I agree. So let's go into the first game, which is one of the bigger games on the card. The Dolphins are going to Buffalo. The Buffalo's opens up as a 3.5-point favorite at home, 48-point total. In Circa, it's down to 1. 47.5-point total. I had heard that there may be some Buffalo guys sitting. Now, Miami's got to win the game. If they lose, then it opens the door for those other teams to leapfrog them. So, what are you hearing this game? You got any interest in this game? Originally, I don't like Miami going to Buffalo, period, ever.
Yeah.
But 1 point, there's got to be money coming in on Miami now.
Well, possibly. I do expect that McDermott will look to get his starters some rest, but I have not read much about this one, and I'm not sure if anyone has already been projected to sit out. But I think that regardless of some starters sitting for the Bills, there's some value here, and it's specifically due to Ryan Fitzpatrick's unavailability. We saw him last week come in as the relief pitcher, according to Brian Flores, and he's not going to have that option this week, so it's going to be Tua boom or bust, and I haven't seen anything that I like out of Tua this season. So from that perspective, I think that there's value on Buffalo.
Yeah, to be perfectly honest with you, Circa, like we've talked about on this podcast, our very loyal listeners know this, they get anticipatory. Right now, Rivers is 3.5 still. So they're trying to take a position here that maybe the Bills are going to sit some people, I guess. Otherwise, it's almost like a free square like we've talked about past. Hasn't worked out. But yeah, 1 point at home for Buffalo. They kind of still have to win because if they lose and the Steelers win, they lose a 2 seed. That you figure they want to host that game in the playoffs, right?
Yeah, I think so. Difference between 2 and 3 this year is probably not going to be too much more than that home field advantage in the second game.
Right.
Either way, they're going to avoid Kansas City until the championship game.
Correct.
But there also was probably some maneuvering here to see how you might be able to avoid Baltimore. And I know there's so many different permutations that go into where Baltimore lands. But
Sure.
right now, I think Baltimore is slated for the 5 slot. Is that right?
Let's see. To go to sub package B here, America. We will we will see. Yes, I do want to say this. Let me double check. It's so there's so many different, like you said, things that can happen. Right now, I have Baltimore as the 6th seed. I've got Miami ahead of them, but I think it's again, this all depends on what happens on Sunday. That's why they do such a good job in the NFL and the scheduling. So right now I've got it's Tennessee at 4, same record as the Colts, by the way, right? Yeah. Tennessee. Is that right? Yeah.
I think all 5 of these teams have the same record.
They do. They're all 10-5. So you got Tennessee at 4. You've got Miami at 5, Baltimore at 6, Cleveland 7, and Indy at 8. So a lot of things can happen there. It'd be a shame to have 2 teams from the AFC South miss it, but that's actually a possibility here, and that's how it sits right now. I think that Tennessee has a better divisional record. That's why that they're sitting ahead right now, and they would sit ahead if they're tied in the standings. But crazy stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, what it comes down to, I think Buffalo is going to have some motivation if they prefer to avoid Baltimore, which I imagine that all AFC teams will.
Right. Right, they're dangerous. Okay, well, I guess we'll put that as a yellow on Buffalo, figuring out some news. The next game doesn't have any playoff implications, but it does just have strange. We could talk about the Jets. The Jets go to New England. New England open as a 4-point favorite at home, 41-point total. It's down to 2.5 in the contest, 39.5-point total. Cam Newton is playing for New England. I don't know if that even matters. The Jets, I don't know how we can explain this. They're playing good football now, right? The last 3-4 weeks they're playing good. Ever since that Raiders loss, they're playing better. Even that Raiders game they played better. But I don't know why. I mean, I've already said Gase is going to be fired. So they're just playing, I guess, for their jobs at this point. And New England, I thought they were playing good in the first quarter, then they got completely nuked by Buffalo. So I don't really want to back anybody, but I probably would only back the Jets now. I mean, it's like I'm on the Jets train, but 2.5, they'd have to win the game almost,
Yeah. Yeah, I would only play the Jets in this situation. I watched a little bit of the game on Monday night, and Cam Newton just couldn't complete a pass. I think he had 4 completions in the entire part of the game that he played.
Right.
And I have every belief that we're going to see some Stidham this weekend as well. So I believe that we should pass on this game.
Okay, let's do it. Next game, Atlanta and Tampa. Atlanta goes into Tampa. They're a 6-point dog, 50-point total. In the contest, it's 7 points. Tampa's favored, 50.5-point total. Atlanta played good. I kind of talked about that last week. We kind of backed off on it. They've been tough in most games if they don't play, certain teams, I guess. They obviously should have beat Tampa a couple weeks ago. Is Tampa playing for a lot? Probably not. But a lot of things can happen. Like you said, these different iterations, who wants to play who. Tampa's going to be better if they play at home for sure. At least they will in the first round. No, they won't. They'll be on the road either way.
Yeah.
But I don't know, you like this team? You like Tampa at all? Or you staying away? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, this is a game that I don't really have much on. I think, they beat Atlanta 31-27 in the first time around at Atlanta. It was a game that probably wasn't as close as that final score indicated, though. Tampa had a bit of a lead, and I think the Falcons got into the back door in that one. So 7 seems like a lot on the surface, but without understanding what the motivation is for the Tampa Bay Bucks, I think I would like to pass.
Okay. Let's pass. Let's trust the gut this time. This game doesn't have any playoff ramifications. Minnesota's going to Detroit. Minnesota is a 7-point favorite on the road, 54-point total. It's the same in Circa, 7-point favorite, 54-point total. Detroit's bad, but Minnesota's defense is garbage too. Dalvin Cook's going to be out. There's no motivation. 7 points seems like a lot, but I can't back Detroit. I mean, I don't know. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I would like to pass this too. I think I read today that Galladay is out.
He's been out for the whole season. He stinks.
True. That is true. And I'm not sure about Matt Stafford either. He went out early in the last game, and he's got a ton of injuries, so I don't really see any reason for him to play either. So this one has a pass written all over it for me.
Okay. Here's one that's interesting, and we've beaten up on the NFC East all year, but it comes down to this weekend. The NFC East, there's a playoff spot on the line, man. Dallas is going to the Giants. 2.5-point favorite on the opener, on the road, 47-point total. In the contest, it's only 1.5, 44.5-point total. Dallas played great last week. Explain me that action. How did they beat the crap out of the Eagles. I remember I was just watching, the stats on my phone. Oh, Eagles up 14-3, 80-yard bomb to Deshaun Jackson. They're going to roll. Oh no. Dallas destroyed them after that, and they beat them going away. They're using all their receivers now. It's like Dalton's gotten comfortable in this offense, and the defense is playing half decent. So I'd be on Dallas in this game.
Yeah, I like the Giants, actually. I think this number is a little bit out of line for what it should have been on the look ahead. I think that Dallas is being a little bit inflated now on the back of the last couple of performances, and I'm not so certain that the defense will be able to hold up as well against the Giants. With Daniel Jones now back under center, he's going to be a week healthier. I know he looked completely immobile last week against the Ravens pass rush, but Dallas doesn't quite have the same ability. So I think the Giants should fare well, and I like them in this game.
Okay. I mean, the index says that too, that they should be a 1-point favorite at home, not a dog. What's been going on with the Giants then? They're playing better opponents, or they played good against Seattle, and then since that Seattle win, it's been MIA. It's because of Daniel Jones out of the lineup.
Yeah, I think that was a major part of it, going from Jones to McCoy. Granted, I think McCoy played in that Seattle game. That was the first start, if I recall.
Right.
The last couple of weeks, they've just been putrid on offense. Those 7 points, 6 points, and 13 against Baltimore.
Right. So you think that they're going to be able to put up enough points against, and then they're just going to hold down Dallas's offense? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're opposite sides. Let's just, I guess, pass on it.
Okay.
I understand what you're saying. I would have agreed with that 2 weeks ago, maybe, after one bad performance. I just don't trust the Giants now. I know that they're at home, but that doesn't mean shit anymore. So, we'll see. I mean, to me, it's like Dallas has motivation too. Dallas wins this game and Washington loses, they win the division. They're in the playoffs. And I still think they're the most talented team in the division. I just think they are. Dalton is certainly not Dak Prescott, but I mean, the Giants offense is really bad. And, I don't know. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, the Giants win the division as well if they win and Washington loses. So they're in the same boat.
Really? Is that right?
Yeah.
They're all at 6 wins then?
The only team eliminated is Philly.
Okay. I got you. So they got motivation. All right. Okay, so Pittsburgh against Cleveland. We kind of mentioned this already. Cleveland opened as a 6.5-point favorite at home, 42-point total. Now it's up to 8.5 in the contest with a 42-point total. I saw it as high as 10. You see 10.5 in another shop there. So it's obviously they're thinking the value is, Cleveland is going to win the game because they have to, and Big Ben's out. 8.5. I mean, they think they're just going to smash the Steelers, huh?
Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I like Pittsburgh in this game, even without Ben Roethlisberger.
Right.
Especially given the situation that the Browns have with the defensive COVID out going to the backups. I think it's going to be very problematic. Denzel Ward has been the key to that defensive backfield all season.
Sure.
Every week that he's been out, they've given up a whole bunch of yards and points. And I think that this sets up really nicely for Pittsburgh catching 8.5.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't, even without all those injuries, I thought that divisional opponent, 8.5, like this isn't as long as the Steelers start their defense, most of their defensive starters, it should be good. They're going to slow down that run. I mean, I don't know. Yep. Let's go with Green. Pittsburgh. We're back on you, Pittsburgh. You failed us by not taking out the rest of the contest last week, but or they actually helped the contest besides us. So All right, next one is Baltimore and Cincinnati. Uh, Baltimore opened up as an 11.5 point favorite on the road, 43.5 point total. It's 12 in the contest, 44 point total. Cincinnati has outright won 2 straight games, right? It's really bizarre. We talked about that last week. I did like them. It was my lone bet that I won. Um, you know, I think Baltimore is a different animal than who they played. So this is kind of the reverse logic of what I just said when it comes to some of those other games. I think Baltimore is going to crush them. 12 is a lot of points, though. I don't think I can do that in the contest, but they have covered the last two big numbers in the last 2 weeks, right?
Yep. Yeah, and Baltimore beat the same Cincinnati team with Joe Burrow under center, 27-3, way back in Week 5. So I think that Brandon Allen's return was a big boost to the Cincinnati offense. I wasn't aware that he was starting until I saw the box score. But even despite that, this Baltimore team has really picked up their defense the last couple of weeks, giving up only 14 and 13 points to the Jacksonville and New York Giants. And I think that they could definitely cover this number and will look to put their kick on going into the playoffs. So I'd be willing to put Baltimore on our card if it came down to it.
Okay. Well, let's put it as a yellow. I don't disagree with your logic. I think that they're turning the corner. That it's kind of interesting. A year ago, we were on Kansas City at this stage of the year, and we were actually on them early. We were both thinking they were going to win the Super Bowl. Mahomes came back. They were playing really great, kind of under the radar because Baltimore was dominating. It's almost like it's inverted, hasn't it? Where Kansas City, is prohibitive favorite. They're, in the clubhouse. They're just dominating. Baltimore is a team that, as much as they, if they're behind in a game, it's not so good. But if they come out with the right game plan, can get on top of, a team like Kansas City or even the Bills. I agree with you. That defense is playing better. They're going to be dangerous in the playoffs.
Yeah, they're up to 9th ranked in DVOA, Football Outsiders, and a much better defense than Kansas City, no doubt about that.
Yeah, and of those three teams, they have the best defense. The Steelers have a better defense. It's going to be the offense for them. I think that the Ravens can score. It seems like they can score pretty much on anybody. They've never really been shut down by anybody. So it's more, can the defense slow down whoever they're playing, But okay, let's move to the 4 o'clock games, the late games, which is more the West Coast teams and such. You've got Arizona going to the Rams. This is obviously playoff relevant. Arizona, although it is on the road, they're 2.5 point favorites on the road on the opener, 41 point total. It's 3 in the contest. We're a 3 point favorite on the road, 40.5 point total. Kind of interesting line here. Is Kyler Murray ruled out?
No, I don't think he's out. He's definitely questionable, though.
Okay.
Kyler Murray, probable. This was updated yesterday.
Okay.
With a lower leg injury, but projected to line up for Sunday's contest.
Yeah, so Goff's going to be out. Henderson's out. They already have Cam Akers out at running back. So I guess, it'll be Malcolm Brown in the backfield. Who's the backup for the Rams now? It's not Bortles, is it?
It's a guy by the name of Mark Wolford is the projected starter for this game.
He's an AAF guy or something?
Yeah, that or CFL, I think.
Okay. Okay. So, who knows? It's a tough one, actually. And the Rams are better in the index, right? And they're a better football team top to bottom. I just don't know. That Rams team. Without Goff, maybe this guy doesn't turn the ball over. I mean, that's what Goff does.
Yeah. I did hear an interesting interview with Adam Chernoff on Follow the Money, I think, this week. He is a Canadian guy and follows the CFL. And he mentioned that Wolford is not a passing quarterback at all. In fact, he plays more of like a Taysom Hill kind of style. Okay. So I would expect that McVay is going to come out with a smash mouth type of game plan and not really throw much at all, which probably reduces the significance of the Cooper Kupp loss.
Right.
Initially, I was thinking that would be very problematic for this offense, but if the quarterback isn't really going to be throwing anyhow, then perhaps it won't be as big of a factor. So
interesting.
As much as this game confounds me, I think I would only really look to one side with the underdog Rams. McVay is also 6-0 against the Cardinals in his career. So
Interesting.
You have that trend as well.
I was just going to ask you. So it was kind of a higher scoring 38-28 loss last time. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the Cardinals they remember how like they were great in the beginning of the season, middle of the season they were kind of, they were actually, it was really, they played like garbage. They had 2 wins. They got to beat the Giants and the Eagles. And then when they played good teams, they've kind of folded. It's weird. So I don't really trust these Cardinals either. I just don't know if I trust the Rams and some CFL Taysom Hill dude.
Yeah. Well, the other factor when the Cardinals took that dip was Kyler Murray's shoulder injury.
True.
If you recall, he stopped running, which brought a whole other dynamic to that offense. And with this lower leg injury, I don't really have optimism that he's going to be running this weekend either. So
right.
Without that ability, I think that the Cardinals offense could be stunted a little bit.
Right. I mean, if they play like a low scoring game, and 40.5 for this game. I mean, the last game it was 68 points or 66 points last time. It's definitely a different ball game. This is going to be a low scoring total. So I kind of feel like I got to stay away here, unless you feel strong on it.
No, I don't think so. We can certainly move on.
All right, Tennessee going to Houston. Tennessee's open as a 7-point favorite, 56-point total. It's up to 7.5 at Circa. Of course, they had the hook. 56-point total. This is one of the ones that I liked initially because they got to win and everything with Tennessee. They got to make sure they're going to be in the playoffs. I hate the hook, man. I hate the hook. This Houston team is bad, but they showed even last week just they can put points up, and that's what they did against the Colts defense the week before, and obviously Cincinnati last week. The Titans defense is bad, so the back door is wide open with that 7.5, isn't it?
Yeah, the back door is definitely a little scary. I set alerts on my app this week, just waiting for it to go to 7, and I was going to drop the hammer.
Yep.
But it's really been cemented on every single book that I follow at 7.5. Hasn't budged all week. The one thing that I will say that we should keep our eye on is the status of Deshaun Watson.
Sure.
He's questionable right now with that arm injury that he sustained last week.
Okay.
And if he doesn't play, I think immediately you're going to see this number go to 10, 11, 12 or higher.
Sure.
Because without Deshaun Watson's ability under center, they have no chance to hang with the Titans.
No, agreed. So, let's keep track of that. I guess we can put yellow on Tennessee and just with the caveat we're looking at the injury report. Because, I've got the game rated as 7. So if it's 7 or less, you take it in a heartbeat. But when you get that hook, Hookville.
Even with Deshaun Watson under center, would you consider it, or is it a no play at that point?
If Deshaun Watson is playing at 7.5, you mean? It'd have to be like our 5th choice, or we were struggling to find one. I don't love that back door being open, man. I mean, they did it against the Colts. I mean, the Colts are a much better defense than Tennessee. And I mean, maybe the Colts took the foot off the gas pedal. I don't think the Titans will. But at the same time, divisional game, 7.5 at home. I mean, it's a pride game. It's not even, it means nothing to Houston. They're going to get a new coach next year, new GM. But I think Watson's a winner. Watt's a winner. They're not going to just roll over either. So, All right, here's the hometown, Green Bay, coming to Chicago again. 4-point favorites, for Green Bay here in Chicago. 50-point total in the opener. It's 5 in the contest. 51-point total. I've seen it as high as 5.5, so I'm a little confused why we're getting the 5. I guess they're anticipating some Bears money here. Tough one for me, action. The Bears have been playing pretty good, but the Pack, God, they haven't covered when we pick them. They never cover when we pick them. It's hard for me to pick against the Bears, but I think they're going to win the game to just make sure that they've got the 1 seed, because there's all these – we didn't talk about this crazy 4-team scenario with the Saints, Green Bay, Seattle. All of them could be the 1 seed, which is nuts. So Packers have massive motivation here. They got to win the game. The Bears – as well as motivation. And I just thought the last time they played, I guess the Bears have played better, but they just looked like the big brother beating the crap out of little brother there. I didn't think they had a chance in that game. And what's making it in Chicago? There's no Bears fans that, make it, maybe it's freezing and it's like the Ice Bowl or something, but I don't like it.
Yeah, I don't think that I could look to the Bears' side in this one either. Despite their last 3 covers, this defense is just not playing well right now, and that's not a good recipe for facing the Packers and Aaron Rodgers. I think that the Packers are going to be able to do whatever they want with the football. I like the over quite a bit in this game as well. I think there's going to be a lot of scoring on both sides, but I would have a lean to the Packers if you were so inclined.
Yeah, maybe. It's hard for me to go against the Bears, but this game reminds me so much of, and I'm trying to remember the year now. It's probably 2010 or something, when the Bears were the 1 seed and the Packers were trying to get in, and the Bears didn't beat them to knock them out.
Yeah.
And they ended up facing in the NFC Championship game, losing, and that was Rodgers' only championship. I don't think Green Bay is gonna make that same mistake. They're gonna win. They're gonna try to smash the Bears. No holds barred. So anyway, I could maybe be talking to the Packers. I'd like to not pick against the Bears, but not just because of the hometown thing. But it's like, damn, this is the one game they play great. It surprised me.
Yeah.
All right, Jacksonville going to Indy. We talked about this already. Indy open as a 14-point favorite at home, 50-point total. In the contest is 13.5, a little more favorable number. 50-point total as well. I mean, I'm all over the Colts, but Jesus, dude, this is a couple weeks in a row that they can't do it late. They've been up late. It's a smash spot. They got to win. They're going to run all over this team. Jacksonville doesn't give a shit. They're done. They're going to have a new coach too, probably. So 13.5 is certainly a good number. I don't see anybody else not taking this game unless you're thinking otherwise. What do you think?
Yeah, this is a tough one. It's definitely a big number. And the thing that scares me in taking the Indianapolis side is that Jacksonville basically has everything to play for now. They've locked up that number 1 pick. Okay. They can win this game, potentially, and still get the number 1 pick. So there's no question there. And I also could have the potential to question the Indianapolis motivation. They're playing in the late time window here. And of course, as you know, they have to have at least one of those teams lose ahead of them in order to get their spot in the playoffs.
Good point.
And if for some reason you see Miami, let's see who else is playing early. Cleveland, Baltimore all win. Then it's really between them and Tennessee in that 425 window. And if that happens in the early window, I could see some lack of motivation from the Colts late in the day.
So you're saying so the 3 teams on top win, so the Colts have to win. You're thinking the opposite scenario. If one of those teams loses, then they win.
If one of those teams loses, then they have every motivation to win this game.
Correct.
And get into the playoffs.
Right.
But I'm saying in the scenario that Miami, Cleveland, and Baltimore all get to the window, win their games, they're in the playoffs. And you also have to assume if you're a Colts player or coach that Tennessee is going to win. So at that point, you're out, regardless of the outcome.
Right. I see what you mean. Yeah, you're right. I mean, obviously, if the foot off the gas pedal, if let's say they're up at halftime and they see Tennessee's up by 2 scores, then what's the point? We're going to win, but we're out of the playoffs. I see what you mean. So it's a stay away spot for you then.
It is. I mean, I definitely think that the Colts can smash Jacksonville. They've got the revenge as well from week 1, a game that I'm sure they wish they had in the win column now.
Oh, God, yeah.
But I'm just not sure. I'm definitely eyeballing it for live betting, just watching those early outcomes and going to be able to, even like you mentioned at halftime, the second half might be the way to play it. If you see the early games go against the Colts and then Tennessee's up big, a Jacksonville second half bet seems like a no-brainer.
Sure. Gotcha. Okay. All right. So next game doesn't have any playoff implications. The Vegas is going to Denver. Denver opened as a 2-point favorite, 51-point total. It's inverted to Vegas being a 2.5-point favorite, 51-point total now. I don't know. I mean, the Vegas fell off the rails. I mean, we kind of knew that they weren't that good of a team. I did. I know that you might have been higher on them. I just knew that their numbers at some point were going to come back to bite them, and it seems like between, lack of playmakers on defense and just the offense injuries, they just fell back to earth hard. But Denver, I mean, God, like this team, I don't even know what to expect with this team. Sometimes they play well, and sometimes, they lead the league in turnovers, like turnover differential in the negative. So, they just give the ball up too much for me. It's just a game I don't really care about, so I'd rather stay away personally, but,
Yeah, I understand that for our contest purposes. I did put in a bet on Las Vegas in this game, -2.5.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Denver is just a team that is downward spiraling.
Yeah.
And this is a game that you see Coach Gruden get his team up for. Like, would it be anything more than Coach Gruden? They completely had a boneheaded mistake last week.
Right.
Should have won the game. We didn't even talk about Gruden's decision at the end of the game on Saturday night.
Right.
To take a knee and then kick the field goal and then let Miami come down and beat them. But it's very inexplicable. But I think that Vegas is going to be up for this game.
Okay.
And I like them to win going away.
Okay. Interesting. Well, I'll watch that from the sidelines. You can collect your dough.
All right.
And here's another game that doesn't make a difference, and it's still got some lacking numbers. The Chargers are going to Kansas City. The Chargers, I guess I had the Chargers opening as depends on when the number came out, I suppose. Actually, I had the Chiefs open as a 10.5 point favorite. Of course, now it's flipped all the way over. The Chargers 3.5 point favorite on the road at Kansas City. We all know it's because they're sitting Mahomes and some other guys. The Chargers have played better, although we got Anthony Lind, as we often have in the past. This team was up, 19-3, 19-6, and ended up, not covering for us. We got a push, our one lone push of the week. I read something today that Herbert is backing Lynn. I'm like, come on, dude. I mean, this guy, stop it. Anthony Lynn's not going to be back. If he's back, I'm not going to bet on the Chargers next year, But they could win this game, right? They could win this game. I mean, 3.5 on the road, though. I can't do it, man.
They could win, but I would only look to the Chiefs in this one. Despite Patrick Mahomes, I'm not even sure who the backup is.
I don't know either.
Just doing a quick search here. Chad Henne.
Oh, Chad Henne. Wow, still in the league. Okay.
Former Michigan Wolverine.
Sure.
Not a horrible backup.
No, he's played in Jacksonville and Miami, I think. Yeah, he's fine.
So I have no interest in laying the points with the Chargers, though. I would only play Kansas City at that number.
Yeah, I put it as one of my plays because I just think it's basically you're talking about a 14-point swing. That's ridiculous. The Chargers, whatever. So, all right, let's yellow it up.
Okay.
All right, the other two teams in the contention for the 1 seed. You've got New Orleans going to Carolina. New Orleans opened as a 6-point favorite on the road, 51-point total. It's 7 in the contest, 47.5-point total. I don't know what to say, man. Steady Teddy gets it done, man. The guy just keeps on doing it. He beat us again last week. This is one of those spots. Does he cover again, like he has many times in the underdog role? 7 points. They will be motivated, the Saints. They're not going to smash them like they did against the Vikings. So that 7 is definitely screaming Carolina. I'm not sure if I'd back them, but is that what you're thinking?
Yeah. I mean, Teddy covers. Mm-hmm. Steady Teddy, the underdog, like 70% against the spread now as an underdog.
It's crazy.
Uncanny ability to cover games. And when you're looking at a full touchdown here, I think you can only look at one side in this one.
Right. Okay, well, let's put it in as a yellow. I definitely will consider it if it's in our listing. And then the Seattle game. Seattle's going to San Francisco. Seattle opened as a 4-point favorite on the road, 47.5-point total. Now, it's not really on the road. It's a neutral site. They're playing in Arizona. So Seattle is now a 6-point favorite when they're actually in Arizona playing against San Francisco, and a 46-point total. So they're looking like, to me, I don't know when the 4 points came out, they're taking out any kind of home field advantage, almost giving it to Seattle in a way. I still think the number's too big. I don't. Seattle played well last week defensively, and they've been playing much better with Jamal Adams back. rock'em sock'em game. But you mentioned this last week when we didn't go with Arizona. San Francisco played better, way better with Beathard. They had Kittle back. They were a different football team. And it was so weird. They were a different football team. They didn't turn the ball over. That's the reason.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're going to beat this team, but 6 points in this matchup, San Francisco knows that they could knock them out of the 1 seed. I just see some motivation, and I think that I'd take the points in this one.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely a little bit of value on San Francisco. I'm not sure that I can get there, though, because for me, the Seattle defense has been really playing well lately, and it's been a significant change from what they had earlier in the season, which I think sort of downplays their numbers when you're looking at it from a season-long perspective.
Right.
And they actually probably should be a little bit rated higher than what we're showing in a lot of the indices. So
I agree with you. I think I've got them up to, let me look at my numbers. Let's see here. Sorry, we're delaying here. Seattle, where are you at? Okay, so defensively, they're up to 23rd in yards against, which, they were like 31st for like weeks, months, and they're 12th in points against. So, they're definitely playing better. There's no question. And when they don't turn the ball over and they force turnovers, that's the key because, and they talked about on the broadcast the other day. They let Russell cook. That's awesome. But they're getting back to Pete Carroll football. They're running the football. I think Carson's on the injury report, but they're slamming the ball with Hyde and Carson, and that wins football games, right? And that it certainly helps the defense to get rested on the sidelines. So I hear what you're saying. I kind of feel like there's an angle here with San Francisco, but if you're not on the same side, let's pass on it.
Okay. Yeah. I just have hesitation on backing the Niners just with how well Seattle's been playing.
Sure. Last game, Washington going to Philadelphia. This will close out. This is the Sunday Night Football game. Washington opened as a 1-point favorite on the road, 42.5 point total. It's up to 2 in the contest. I'm not seeing that at Rivers, by the way. It's like 1.5. With a 43-point total. Look, I like Washington here for a lot of reasons, but it's just like last week. You got to have Alex Smith in there, right? Maybe he's the AAF guy, and he's not the Canadian football guy. If they don't start Smith, they're starting some dude who's never started in the NFL. You had obviously Haskins get waived this week, which probably should have happened, not even with the strip club thing. Should have happened when he was pouting on the sidelines after not starting in week 7 or whatever it is. But this defense is really good. Hurts got brought down to earth with the Dallas defense, and this is Washington. So are you on Philadelphia?
No, I don't really have much on this game, to be honest. I probably have it as a pass for me, especially without knowing Alex Smith's status. I heard a report that suggested he may play on Sunday even without a single practice this week. They're just going to wait until Sunday morning to see how he feels to decide. So given the uncertainty there, I don't really know that we could put it in as a contest pick, personally.
Okay. Gotcha. All righty. Well, let's review our Circa situation. We've discussed it. Wow, 0-4-1 action. Rough. 2 weeks this year. That killed us, but we're still over 500 for the year, 51.28%. We're still top third, which is not bad. Let's see if we can stay there. The fourth quarter standings are just abysmal, so we won't review that. Some of the games we've talked about, we did talk about Buffalo covering that 1 point. We'll have to look at the reports a little bit. We both do like Pittsburgh here, getting that 8.5 points, regardless of whether Ben's being out, Mason Rudolph revenge game. We've discussed doing Baltimore with 12 points on the road at Cincinnati, as well as Tennessee at 7.5. I still would feel more comfortable knowing Watson would be out or not. We discussed Green Bay, laying 5 points here at the Bears in Chicago. Kansas City getting 3.5, and then Carolina getting 7. You won't go down there with me with Dallas and Washington, which is fine. And then it sounds like we're opposite sides with San Francisco and potentially the Bucs. So we'll stick with the ones we discussed, huh?
Yeah, we obviously are going to get a lot of news in our inboxes between now and Saturday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot can change in week 17 very quickly. And I'm not going to be stubborn on any of these if we see some news that breaks one way or another. I did just see pop up on Roto World that David Bakhtiari has a torn ACL. It's guard for the Packers. So that's a significant injury for that team.
Yeah, for sure. Especially if Hicks ends up playing and can slow down that running game. So we didn't even mention, Adams has had an amazing year too. Besides Rodgers, man, dude,
unbelievable,
incredible. Okay, well, we'll review, of course, on Saturday to just put our picks in for our loyal supporters. Thank you for listening to us. We're going to do better next year. We did better this year, I think, overall.
Yeah.
We had a little swoon here at the end, which is disappointing, but to me, we're right there. Just a couple of weeks. We just got to keep it up, and we'll stick to it, for next year.
Yeah, I mean, definitely have interest in getting back in the contest next year. Have considered also maybe adding the Survivor contest to our arsenal.
I agree. I think we should.
Pretty cool.
I think we should. This year was an unusual Survivor year because there's so many people left. I think next year it'll be like normally 2/3 of the field is gone by week 7 or something, right? This year it lingered on. Even in the one I did through friends, I was into week 11 or 12 or something. That's the deepest I've ever gone. But I'd love to do that too. It'd be fun to talk about it.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks for listening to us. Follow us at Side Action Pod on Twitter and on YouTube. Follow me at Wegspool on Twitter and Instagram.
Follow me on Twitter at 31sroberts.
All right, everybody. Happy New Year and enjoy this week's action.
Happy New Year. Everybody stay safe tonight. And if you're going out, wear your masks. Mask up, America.
There you go. You heard it here. All right.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Side Action Podcast. We appreciate all of your listens and thank you for joining us. We'll see you all again next week on Thursday for some more hot picks and side action. Side Action Podcast, its owners and associates take no responsibility for the opinions or statements made by the show hosts or their guests. Statements or show topics are not necessarily the beliefs of this podcast, and opinions between talk show hosts may conflict. Individuals following the advice given on the podcast accept their own risk of losses from wagers made. As the Side Action Podcast, its owners, hosts, associates, or guests will not guarantee any advice given. The opinions and advice given on the Side Action Podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Intro and outro and transition music credits. Song titles Jerry 5 and District 4 by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.org. Licensed under Creative Commons Attribution 3.0. creativecommons.org/licenses/by 3.0.